Am I the a-hole for completely canceling my stepdaughter's birthday bash and leaving her with nothing after I broke up with her dad? I, female 43, broke up with my ex Charlie, male 42, last spring after finding out that he cheated with his ex Sandy, female 34. We were together for 3 years, in which I was a very committed stepmother to his kid, Sarah, female 17. She and I never acted like mother-daughter, but I was the go-to adult when she had problems or needed anything because she and her mom don't get along, and my ex would try to help, but his solutions weren't very effective. 1.5 years ago, I completed a very ambitious project for a large company. I started getting paid, but bonuses and royalties only came in this year upon launching. I was so happy and so grateful that I opened accounts for my kids. I decided to gift Sarah the birthday party that she wanted. Her birthday falls in July, and she wanted a pajama party for 25 people, with a big bash, fancy cake, balloons, a DJ, and to go along with her friends to stay in a hotel out of town. This would be for her 18th birthday. So I set up a savings account under my main bank account. Charlie ended up asking me to help him fund a business idea, but I declined for a variety of reasons. We were not married, and I preferred to go solo. His business idea sucked because he was reinventing the wheel and I would be finding everything. We ended up having to close the conversation because he got angry and said he needed a helpful partner by his side, and I responded that I was taught not to give men my money. I know I was harsh and I apologized. I began to feel very insecure when Charlie started to criticize my makeup and personal style. He also praised other women to my face and I felt horrible. Early in the relationship, we had issues because of his communication with Sarah, his ex, which resulted in him promising to cut her off. Fast forward, and I began to notice that Sarah was very active in his family's social media. She gave likes and commented a lot, so I asked him if they were still in contact, because it just didn't make sense. He denied it. I went on a 10-day business trip, but our communication was very off. He would only take my calls until early in the night and became very vague about his daily activities. I couldn't reach him at all for 2 nights on several days apart. He sounded weird when we finally talked. So I lied about having to delay my return date for a few days and arrived 1 day earlier instead. I came home to find used condoms in the trash. My world was shattered and I threw up. His face changed when he saw me home. He also claimed to have been to his mother's house until late. I said I was sick when he asked what was going on and didn't mention anything. But he rushed to take out the trash and to do the laundry. I got into his phone, which I know is wrong, and found hundreds of messages from his ex. Pictures, voicemails, and conversations like they had never broken up. He consulted her about things, told her about his day, etc. Then I found a family chat that made me sick. He, Sarah, and Sandy spent a whole 2 days at a camping site last year when I went to visit family, and there were pictures from last Christmas with his ex at his mother's house. Obviously, he had a full-blown relationship behind my back, and his entire family was aware of it. I directly confronted him, and he tried to deny it until I played one of the voicemails. I couldn't take the humiliation, so I moved out weeks later. Closed the bank account for the birthday bash and kept the money for myself. I cut everything off, including his kid. He reached out in the last week of May. He pleaded with me not to take away Sarah's birthday celebration. I never replied. I know she's a teenager and that she has no control over her dad's actions, but she seems awfully comfortable in her pictures with his ex, and I feel extremely betrayed. Also, there's no way I'm funding a party that I'm not gonna attend for obvious reasons, and I don't want to contribute to a celebration so that his crappy family could eat and drink in my dime. Sarah's mom always had separate celebrations for her, and her gift was supposed to be a camping trip. My ex's family cannot afford a celebration unless they saved way in advance. My best friend says that maybe I can send Sarah a gift if I find it in myself to forgive her actions, but I don't feel like it. His sister sent me a voicemail the other day asking me to please don't turn my back on her niece. I feel awful because I know this was Sarah's dream, but I'm too disgusted to back out from my decision. Am I the a-hole? Edit. The ex he cheated with is not Sarah's mom. She's an ex-girlfriend and much younger. Her mom is also in her 40s. Now for the top comments. Don't send money. They didn't take into consideration your feelings when they were hooking up behind your back, lying to you, laughing, and what else? Why should you? They have to learn that crappy actions have consequences. C'est la vie. They are not your family anymore. You owe them nothing. Period. Best of luck. Especially when the ex is not Sarah's mom. There is no conflict of loyalty here. She doesn't care about your well-being, so why would you care about hers? Yeah, if the ex had been Sarah's mom, I could see where some lax could be given. Her grin would just be happy to be with her mom and dad. Not saying she deserved a party, but at least a gift. But a former girlfriend? Forget that. She made her choice. Not the a-hole. Sarah knew what her father was doing. His family knew and actively engaged in hiding this from you. Let them throw a Motel 6 pool party with dominoes and a boombox. You take care of yourself. It might be healthy for you to cut all ties with this group. She needs to stop talking to them and worry about herself. These people never cared about her. She was strictly an ATM who they thought they could manipulate. Screw all of them. Horrible people. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my 14-year-old son I was not his biological father after my wife had an affair on me? I, 37 male, have been married to my wife, 36 female, for 10 years. When I started dating her, she was a single mom, as her ex had fled the state after she got pregnant. My wife never wanted to tell our son that I was not his biological father. She wanted to wait till he was an adult in his 20s, and we decided on that when we married. I found out last week from one of my friends that my wife was having an affair. I confronted my wife about it. She initially denied it, but after I told her I had physical proof, I lied. She admitted to it. I asked her how long, and she said a few months. And then immediately went to my son and told him everything. I also told him I was not his biological father, that my wife has a tendency to go for these terrible men, and I made a mistake marrying her. My son was shocked and asked my wife if what I said was the truth. My wife said yes. My son then came over and hugged me and was crying, and I told him I will always consider him my son. I am now looking for a divorce lawyer, and my son has completely ignored his mom over the past week. She has tried to communicate with him many times, but he has ignored her every time. To be honest, I think it will really help me in the custody arrangements during the divorce, as my son's preference will be taken into account. My son just wants nothing to do with his mom right now. However, I do sometimes feel a bit guilty about it, but I then remember that I am the one who is the victim. Am I the a-hole? Please make sure to talk with your son to tell him none of this is his fault, and would be a good time to tell him how much you love him. Yes, for sure. I have been doing that a lot over the past week, and will continue to do that. To be honest, we were always close, but we have somehow gotten even closer over the past week. He is also self-assured. He knows it is not his fault and it is his mom's fault, and he has a steely determination and wanting nothing to do with her. If you did not legally adopt your son, then there is no custody. You didn't mention whether you adopted him or not. There could be. If OP is legally married to his mother and he's been supporting the child all these years, he could definitely fight for custody. This is a common problem, and in the US, he would most likely get joint custody. As long as he's fit as a parent, doesn't matter if the child isn't biologically his or if he hasn't adopted legally. Telling your son that you're not his biological father as an FU to your wife would make you an a-hole. But informing him of that fact, as the family dynamic is now changing for his own good, would not make you an a-hole. Like another commenter said, it would come out in the divorce anyway. I don't know what your intention was, so I'm not going to make a judgment here. It will come out in the divorce, but between now and then, the kid could be thinking it's something he did or his fault in some way. At least what OP did makes sure that the kid knows exactly what has happened and not to blame himself. If he had have said, "Hey kid, your mom cheated on me, so I'm out. Peace," then he would be an absolute a-hole. But the fact he is still there for the kid and looking into custody, that isn't the situation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for following through on my threat of divorcing my wife if she didn't start taking care of herself? I am 49 years old. My wife is 48. We have been married for 23 years. When I first met my wife in college, she was energetic, fun, and simply radiant. Her love of life was infectious. We would go hiking, eat at restaurants, go to theme parks, take walks on beaches, and everything else. We both loved the outdoors. About 3 years after we got married, my wife started changing. Instead of going out, she began to become something of a couch potato. She gained weight, started sleeping less, stopped cooking, and frankly became kind of a slob. I put up with this for years. I started cooking on most nights, and I had to hide vegetables in her food for her to eat them. I started doing the dishes every night because I knew she wouldn't. When I went grocery shopping, I abstained from buying my favorite unhealthy foods because I knew she would devour them within hours. I tried to encourage her to start taking care of her health. Nothing changed. 10 years ago, I finally reached my breaking point. I sat her down and gave her an ultimatum. Start taking care of your health, because if it falls apart, I'm not going to be here to take care of you. She was very upset with me, saying in sickness and in health might repeatedly. But I told her I didn't care. Again, nothing changed. I've stayed active. I go jogging every day and maintain a healthy weight. But over the past 5 years, she has reached a point where she frankly kind of disgusts me at times. It takes her 5 minutes or more to get up from her typical position of lying down on a sofa. She has started waddling hunched over. She's 48, but she honestly looks 10 years older and acts 25 years old. A month ago, I finally got her to go to the doctor. Another one of her reckless behaviors is never going in for checkups. They discovered that she's on the verge of type 2 diabetes, has a mild case of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and her blood pressure is concerningly high. Naturally, after receiving such news, on the way home from the hospital, she swung by a fast food restaurant to get some food and a shake. The other day, I sat her down and told her that I simply refuse to be a caretaker for someone who's not even 50 yet. I told her I would be filing for divorce, but left how we do it up to her, either through lawyers or through a cooperative splitting of assets. She's absolutely furious with me, and my parents seem to be on her side. Am I really the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. She is giving no effort, so why should you? Everyone deserves to be happy. Clearly she isn't, and making bad choices and taking away her happiness. Life is short, and it moves quicker as you get older. Get your happy back. I'm 55, Hub 63. His health was getting in a bad place. Lots of medications. 2 years ago, started getting up at 3:30 a.m. to hit the gym before work. Lost 40 pounds and damn buff. This with a titanium knee. We cook together again and outdoor active. She needs a counselor and buy-in. If not, she's doing what she wants to. You get to do the same. You have a wonderful relationship. It's clear that you love him a lot. Has your wife been treated for depression? She has to want to be treated. If she doesn't, OP shouldn't have to wait until she does. Info. While I am not qualified to diagnose, this sounds to me like it started with depression. Has she sought therapy or other help in that direction? I've suspected the same in the past, but she has never been diagnosed with depression. She has never made the slightest effort to address any of her health issues. Come to think of it, I don't even remember the last time she went to the dentist. Depression. Regardless of a diagnosis, that's what it sounds like. But as long as she refuses to go to the doctor and acknowledge there is a problem, there is not much she can do. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting a postnup with my husband after finding out he has a child? Recently, my husband's ex from high school showed up, saying they had a child together 13 years ago and their daughter now wants to get to know him. They broke up right after high school and went to different unis. They were already broken up when she found out she was pregnant, and since she wanted to go to med school, her parents offered to take care of the baby, but apparently banned her from telling my husband. I'm 100% supportive of my husband getting to know his daughter, but at the same time, I have some financial concerns. I came into this marriage with more assets. I earn more than him, and financial stability is very important to me. The thought of something happening to him and losing part of my asset to this child terrifies me. Sharing everything with my husband never bothered me before because that's part of marriage, but him suddenly having a daughter is not what I signed up for. Therefore, I want a post-nuptial agreement that protects my assets. When I told this to my husband, he got very frustrated with me, saying that he just found out he has a daughter and he wasn't in her life for the first 13 years. He is still in shock, and one of the first things I do is come at him with a postnup, making it seem like I'm preparing to divorce him. I think I'm justified in wanting a postnup, and I've spent the last 2 months being extremely supportive of him and helping him manage the situation. I don't see why wanting a peace of mind for myself is that bad. But one of my friends also said that I'm kind of an a-hole for bringing up a postnup, and it's not like my husband is likely to die anytime soon that makes me really need this. Am I the a-hole? Not a-hole. This mom could sue him for back child support and current child support. OP needs to ensure everything is based on her husband and not joint income or assets. I think she's smart for this. I think it's important to do it quickly. I would ask for the same. I'm sure he was shell-shocked, but so was she. We are talking paying for school, cars, college, insurance, etc. It's important to get ahead of it. People focus on the emotional aspects of this kind of thing, which isn't wrong, but it's equally important to nail down the legal part. They need to establish the kid's paternity medically and legally, establish child support, update wills, insurance, etc. And updating things legally for OP is a part of that, and no less important than any other part. So yes, it needs to be addressed, and this is no longer a brand new issue. 2 months have gone by. The comment that it's not like OP's husband is likely to die tomorrow is idiotic. The reason these kinds of things are important is that it's not just about the likelihood of something happening. And the fact of the matter is, he could die in a freak accident tomorrow, as could any of us. It's also about the likely consequences of dying without these issues taken care of, which are potentially severe. Small chance of event, but potentially severe consequences if you're not prepared. So you adult up and take care of it. It's why all this stuff exists. Wills, child support agreements, legal documents defining what happens to the kid if one or the other parent dies. It can seem alternately boring or scary, but this stuff exists for a reason. Yeah, this. He absolutely needs to get a paternity test done, reliably, before agreeing to anything. And again, yes, people do die accidentally or of brain aneurysms, etc. Unpredictable sudden stuff all the time. It's a possibility. Not a-hole. You gave him 2 months. The news is big, but he's an adult, and life isn't always gonna be smooth sailing. He had a shock and now he needs to prepare, and so do you. Protect yourself and your assets. Exactly. If she threw out the postnup after week 1, this would be a different conversation. But after 2 months, it's time to think logistics and the reality of the situation. Different states and countries have different rules on what kids get both for child support and if the worst happens. OP is trying to protect herself from a situation no one would have prepared for. Maybe the state won't require back support because he didn't know. Maybe it'll just look at his income and assets, not what's considered marital assets. Maybe a million other things. OP has no way of knowing right now and needs to be logical instead of emotional about the situation.
Am I the a-hole for telling my pregnant daughter-in-law the world does not revolve around her? I, 54, and my husband Rick, 57 male, have 3 kids. The oldest, Kurt, 29 male, is married to Becky, 28 female. She's normally a good daughter-in-law, and I try to be a good mother-in-law. We have had a pretty good relationship through the years. Issues have only popped up in the last few months since they are now expecting a baby in November. It is relevant to this situation that Kurt is technically my stepson, but I am the only mother he has known. Becky is becoming increasingly difficult. She expects everyone to bend to her will because she is pregnant or because she is the mother of our grandchild. Recently, Rick and Kurt were talking about our finances, and Becky started making suggestions about what money we should start saving for our grandbaby. That same day, I served lunch. I made chicken for Becky because she isn't eating cold cuts. She made a few comments about the cold cuts that she didn't have to eat. She also made a few comments about the wine we served. She does not want Kurt drinking while she's pregnant, but he didn't agree to this. My husband and I have a second home that we just redid, knocked down the original. The new home has 3 floors. First, bedroom/hangout space, second, middle living and master, third, bedrooms. This had been in the works for years, so our kids are very excited to all go this summer. We're all set to go for our first trip in July. The issue that came up is that my 2 other kids, Tim and Cassie, 23 male and 21 female, plan to have fun on this trip, which includes having some friends to the house a few times, amusement park, scuba diving, going out. When Becky and Kurt were over last weekend, Tim and Cassie were talking about their plans, and Becky got upset, saying that because she's pregnant, this trip shouldn't be all about drinking. It's not, but we aren't banning alcohol from the house. She also said that next year's trip will not include any get-togethers because she will have a small child. Tim just told her not to worry because she doesn't have to participate in any of the fun. Becky called me and said she was upset about the plans. She said we needed to respect the fact she can't participate in all of the activities we are planning. I told her that there were plenty of things she can participate in and not worry about the other kids were doing. She then said she really thinks I should limit the drinking and parties. I informed her that I have no intention of limiting anything since this is their vacation as well, and these activities can take place on the back deck. I told her she can have the bedroom upstairs in the front so that she will not be bothered, but she was mad she would have to walk up all the steps. She also accused me of caring less because Kurt is not my son. Not true. At the end of our talk, I told her I could get a rental to have their own space, but she accused me of trying to exclude her. I reminded her that she spent many nights out drinking when she was their age, and that the world can't revolve around her just because she is pregnant. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She sounds like the type that thinks expectant mothers should be able to park in handicapped spaces. Oh, she's gonna be a handful. In fairness, there are some pregnant women that I'd happily see park in a disabled space. I'm disabled, but remember how exhausting and painful pregnancy can be? And my pregnancy was considered to be easy. But yep, not the a-hole. She definitely does sound like a handful. She's, in my opinion, the kind of person that finds herself holding a little bit of power and is now forcing everyone to bend to her will because the whole world should revolve around her. Lol, actually, I've just realized that if my ex, male, could get pregnant, this is exactly how he'd act. Not the a-hole. Your daughter-in-law is turning into an entitled mother before she even has the kid. Clearly, she thinks she's the first person in the world to have a kid. I get that hormones make pregnant women crazy, but some also lose common sense. Info. Have you talked to Kurt about this? Really, this I can't drink so nobody should, or I can't go on a roller coaster so nobody should, translates into there should only be activities that I can do or want to do. Nope, just nope. Good for you for saying something before she gets a chance to ruin everyone's vacation. Not the a-hole. Yes, Kurt is not a fan of the nobody can thing, which is why he did not agree to stop drinking while she's pregnant. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that he is not a real single dad since his son is in daycare 24/7? My brother and his ex were together for 3 years. They were both unfaithful throughout the relationship, and when they broke up and she got pregnant and told him there's a chance he is or isn't the father, things became even crazier. He had just gotten a major promotion and was going to be making a lot of money, and he felt like she was only keeping the baby to take his money on the off chance the baby is his. When the baby was born, they got a paternity test and he was the father. After that, they got into a huge custody battle. She was unemployed after losing her job and living with her parents, and my brother was way more stable than her. He had money, a job, a house, and a nursery all ready for the baby. He also wanted 100% custody. I asked him why, since he works so much and didn't seem to want the baby throughout the pregnancy. He said he knows the type of person she is, and she thought she would use a baby as a pawn for his money. But our aunt is a family lawyer and helped him hire a top attorney to get full custody. And he got it. When the baby was only like 7 months, he got full custody and never allows her to see him. She begs and begs, and he refuses. He gets happy seeing her so sad. He enrolled his son in daycare every day 5 days a week from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. as soon as he got custody. He's now 3 and still on the schedule. My mom or me, since getting my license, picks him up from daycare and watches him at my brother's house until he gets off work at 8 to 9-ish. He then lets him use the iPad until he goes to sleep around 10. Then it's the same routine over and over again. He doesn't even spend time with his son. He doesn't even use to change his diapers. Once my mom changes him before she leaves at 9, he doesn't get another one until he goes to daycare the next morning. The only time he even spends time with him is when he's taking him to daycare in the morning. We watch him on the weekends too, so he can unwind and basically have a bachelor pad. He doesn't even seem to love his son. His teachers, since he was a few months, are like his mother figures. He calls them mama. He's the first there in the mornings and the last to get picked up. Meanwhile, his mom is begging to see him since she hasn't seen him since COVID began. Yes, I know. And my brother refuses. Whenever my brother complains about being a single dad, I tell him he's not a real single dad since he chose to be the only parent and spent thousands on top lawyers. And also, his son is in daycare literally every day for most of the day and he never sees him. He called me an a-hole and said I'm disgusting for saying he's not a real single dad and he works to provide for his son. Not an a-hole for the sole reason he is emotionally/physically neglecting his son. So maybe not being a single dad, but being a crappy one. Just because he pays for the food and roof doesn't mean he is taking care of his son. I used to call a social worker mama when I was around his son's age, when my mother had more custody than my dad and she was neglecting me. Damn the biased courts for favoring crappy mothers over hardworking and loving fathers just because they're the mom. I'm not saying this is the same scenario between the mom/dad, but it's obvious the same type of neglect is there. She would put me in a bouncy chair for hours or keep me in the playpen just so she could hang out with her friends or party. There were other stuffs too, but just all in all bad. I don't mean to seem like I am making this about me, but wanted to share my personal experience. I can assure you that the teachers/caregivers at the daycare cannot at all give him the one-on-one time he needs as a 3-year-old to develop properly emotionally. I developed BPD most likely from the neglect, because I didn't learn how to form proper attachments to people. I'm doing a lot better now, but when it started showing in my teens, it was rough. He is setting his son up for a lot of emotional problems later on. If he didn't want child support, I'm sure he could have just signed off his parental rights. And like you also said, it sounded like he didn't actually want to be a parent through the pregnancy. In my opinion, it sounds like he only changed his tune when money was involved. Now it sounds like he is now using the child himself as a pawn to get back at the ex for trying to use the child as one in the first place. And I hate when parents put their children on iPads and make the iPads babysit/be the parent for them. I'm not saying giving a child an iPad is bad in general, but obviously this guy's using it to get out of parenting. Wow. My brother also used to leave his son in his bouncy chair and places him in front of a TV or iPad. That's his version of parenting when he's alone. And the daycare is really nice and the women there are great. But you're right, they can't give him enough one-on-one time. There's like 12 preschoolers in this class. They send pictures every day of what he's doing and is always clinging to his mommy there. Funny enough, she kind of resembles his real mom, who he hasn't seen since he was 7 months old. Not even a FaceTime or call. Not day hall. And I'd call the mom and say you're willing to testify against him if she wants to go back to court. Even with full custody, she should be having regular visits. Yes, this. Document everything. See who else in your family cares enough about this child to do what needs to be done. This boy is suffering, and likely will continue to do so unless someone steps up for him. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for throwing my sister's confession of regretting her kids in her face? I, 32 female, was close to my sister, 34 female, most of my life. But our adult relationship has been tough. My sister has 5 kids with her husband. The youngest was born in February of last year. I have been trying to conceive with my husband for 8 years now. I knew I had fertility issues prior, but it has been heartbreaking trying to have a baby and being unsuccessful. We have been open with our families about our struggles, and most people are really kind and supportive. But my sister has been... I don't know how to describe it. Ever since her first pregnancy, she has told me about how she didn't want to be a mom, how she was considering termination, and every time I would support her. And then she would have her babies and she would admit regretting not terminating them. She would say her husband wanted the kids, and she knew it would ruin their marriage, so she had them and would fake it. She never stopped confiding in me, even when I asked her to. I told her it was a hard topic for me to be involved in while I was struggling. She would act like I never said anything. Then a few weeks ago, my parents told me they had saved some money for my husband and I to help us have a baby. I thanked them. They said they hoped it could bring us the luck we needed. My sister was there, and maybe she was jealous or something because she started joking that my husband and I just needed to have us and how easy it is to have a baby. And then she joked that I must not be a real woman if I can't get pregnant. My parents were furious and told her it was a nasty thing to say. And, well, they scolded her. But then she said I would be a crappy mom, and that's why the universe wouldn't give me a baby. And I might have lost it a bit. And I told her, well, at least I wouldn't regret having my kids after they were born, and wouldn't be thinking I should have had a termination when they're already living, breathing babies. She was furious, and my parents were shocked. She called me an a-hole and told me she confided in me in confidence, and I feel guilty because she did, and because I was the only person who ever knew how she felt, and I lashed out in the heat of anger. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I thought this would be an everyone sucks here, but honestly, not the a-hole. Your sister was being vile. You're not a real woman because you can't get pregnant was hard enough. But you can't get pregnant because the universe knows you'd be a terrible mom? Atrocious. Your sister sounds all around like a bad person. I can assure you those kids will notice that they aren't wanted. I wouldn't honestly blame her if she had one, regretted it, and stopped. But she had 5 kids. Each time knowing she didn't want them, that's cruel. You didn't go out of your way to out her to your parents about it. And I'd ask her before to stop confiding to you about this. It wasn't like what you said was even a low blow. It's apparently something she says all the time. For real, I feel horrible for the kids. I thought the post was going to turn into the sister offering her youngest to the sister since she doesn't want it. Not the a-hole. Classic case of don't dish it out if you can't take it. It was a horrible thing to say, but she knew she was saying the most cruel thing she could say in the moment. Not the a-hole. She's clearly not been respecting you over the years, and now she's mad you finally said something to her. Not the a-hole. She was definitely jealous that your parents were giving you money for whatever reason, and she had no right to say those things, even as a joke, which, let's be honest, probably had a little bit of truth to it. She was clearly only thinking about herself when she confided in you about saying those things, because anyone with common sense wouldn't have said those things to a woman who is trying to get pregnant. Especially if that woman is her sister, not the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother and sister-in-law not to have another child? This actually happened at our family Easter, but I wanted to get some outside perspective. I, 31 male, went to my brother Jacob's place for Easter. His wife Kate and daughter Arya, 3, were of course there too. To note, Arya has Down syndrome, and she probably won't be able to live independently, and she also has a heart defect. I always assumed that Jacob and Kate wouldn't have more children, as caring for Arya is expensive and takes a lot of time. However, Jacob and I were smoking on the porch and talking about our gran, who lives in a nursing home. He mentioned how that type of care is super expensive, and how they were trying for another baby to care for Arya after they're gone. I was pretty shocked and asked him to elaborate. He said it would be cheaper to have another kid instead of saving up hundreds of thousands in trust for Arya's care. I told him that was very messed up and would make the kid feel unwanted. By then, sister-in-law had come outside and she started laying into me. She said I didn't know what it was to parent a disabled child and how I shouldn't judge. She asked me to drop the topic or leave, and so I dropped it and went to play with Arya. Did I cross a line? I know how tough my brother and Kate have it, but their plan seems unethical as hell. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Tell them they should watch My Sister's Keeper. This is exactly what I was about to say. It's completely immoral. Not the a-hole. This is beyond immoral. They want to bring a child into this world to be a servant. That is messed up. Not the a-hole. Sounds like indentured servitude without the agreement part. Also, any kid brought up with that expectation will resent everyone at some point, and probably have a slew of personal issues, mental health, trust, etc. Plus, they already have one kid with lifelong learning disabilities and physical disabilities. What happens if kid number 2 has the same? Your brother and sister-in-law are the kind of people that shouldn't have a dog, let alone kids. Agree, not the a-hole. There are quite a few AITA posts from adult kids whose parents just expect them to care for their special needs sibling and guilt them about wanting to go to college or move away and have their own lives. It's really sad. And in 16 to 18 years, we will be reading here how, apparently, I was born just because I'm supposed to take care of my sister. And I love her, and she's sweet, like a little kid though. And she'll always be a little kid. It has physical disabilities too. I don't want to go to college and go to Europe, and I don't want to already be like a parent for the rest of my life before I've even had a life. Not today, Hall. And every comment will be telling them to go no contact. Then a follow-up post from the parents wailing about how they did everything for their child and how could they. Update. Am I the a-hole for taking away my wife's access to our money? Original story. I have been married to my wife Ashley for 7 years. I am the only one that works, and Ashley spends her time volunteering at a charity she started. I am fine with this, as I make enough for both of us. In financial decisions, we have equal say. I will admit that I am the numbers nerd of the relationship, so I do the budget and handle our investments. My wife has equal input into the budget, and we both have to agree on it. Like many people, we are saving for retirement and a couple of other financial goals. Ashley's sister and her family are going through a lot of financial issues at the moment. My brother-in-law lost his job, and my sister-in-law is reaching out to my wife for help. They're asking for us to cover their monthly expenses. I said no, that while we have some discretionary money, we don't have that much. Both my wife and I get fun money to spend however we wish each month. So I told my wife that I would match whatever amount of her fun money she wants to give her sister from my fun money. My wife doesn't want to do that as she says that won't be enough money. She wants us to reduce the amount we are saving each month to help her sister. I refused. I do not want to jeopardize my family's future for her sister's present. Ashley was very unhappy with my answer, but I refused to change my mind. I found out last week that my wife gave her sister money out of our general savings account. I was furious. To me, this is a complete betrayal of trust. I confronted her, and her reply was that I forced her to go behind my back by being unreasonable. I was angry. I ended up going to the bank and opening up new accounts in my name only. I moved the balances to my new accounts. I left in enough money for the expenses that she typically pays according to our budget. Things like groceries, her gas, etc., as well as her fun money. I did not leave her without access to any money, but I did leave her with access only to money that she is supposed to spend according to the budget we both agreed to. I went home and told her what I had done, and now she's accusing me of financially mistreating her. I pointed out that she's the one that took advantage of my trust, not the other way around. That it is on her to prove to me that she's worthy of my trust because after what she did, I don't trust her anymore. She said that if that was the case, she should just leave, that she wasn't going to be treated as a child. I told her to leave then, because I wasn't going to give her the opportunity to steal from me again when it is clear she isn't even sorry for what she did. She'll have to stay with her sister. I believe I am completely justified for what I have done. She's the one that broke our agreement. Did I take it too far, though? This was the first time she ever did anything like this. Did I let anger get the best of me? Am I the a-hole for taking away her access to the money? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. You nailed it there at the end. She stole from you. No excuse. My husband and I have similar financial agreement, and I simply cannot imagine doing what your wife did. Such a betrayal. So she has gone to stay with her sister, the one who's broke? So now there's another mouth to feed in that house. She's going to essentially be the sole provider for that household out of her own money? I think she'll be back. The question is whether Opie will want her back. Betrayal is exactly the word. Opie made a reasonable suggestion for the amount of financial help they could offer her sister's family, but that wasn't good enough. She stole from the person she's supposed to be in love with, who has supported her financially for the duration of the marriage, and then even had the nerve to claim financial mistreatment when Opie moved to protect his hard-earned assets. He is definitely not the a-hole. Actually, that's a good point. Will sister even want her now that she doesn't have the seemingly unlimited funds of support as monthly sister might have been hoping for? Will wife be out with sister and Opie? Hopefully we get an update. I came here ready to thank you were an a-hole from the title, but I think that what your wife did was awful. You said you would contribute the same amount of fun money as she did to her sister, doubling the loan effectively, and your wife went behind your back to unilaterally take joint funds, so her fund money won't be affected. You're not an a-hole. Your wife is being an unreasonable mooch. Normally, I hate how quick Reddit is to tell people to dump their partners. But if you don't have kids, now is a great time to consider whether you can handle a lifetime of this person and his behavior. Exactly. If the wife wanted to give a larger amount of money to her sister, then she could, I don't know, get a job? Not an a-hole. She was the person who was being unreasonable here. You did not mistreat her financially. I am not sure if this was taken too far. It sounds entirely reasonable for what you have written. I guess you need to ask yourself what you will do if she doesn't compromise at all. That is the big question. I love her, but I can't see myself staying with someone I can't trust. Now for the update. Well, it looks like the posters that commented that my marriage is doomed were correct. First, after reading the posts, I agreed that it was not fair that I had access to our savings and she did not, even though she gave some away without my consent. Following the advice of several posters, I contacted my bank and I found out that the account could be changed, so that while both of us could deposit money, it would take both our signatures to take money out of the account. This would give her the same control over the accounts that I had by putting them under my name. I contacted Ashley to let her know that I would put the money back in the joint account if we switched the account to require both of our signatures. She said no, that just showed that I didn't trust her. I told her I didn't, that she had taken money without my consent, so of course I didn't trust her. She refuses to change the account and I refuse to give her unrestricted access. So right now I am still the only one with access to the money. We also tried marriage counseling, another suggestion that posters brought up multiple times. The counselor asked both of us to say what we thought was wrong with our relationship. Ashley said that I had mistreated her by taking away her access to money. I said that Ashley had broken my trust by giving away money without my consent. It took a few sessions, but it's because pretty clear that we just weren't going to see things the same way. I wasn't going to commit to supporting her sister's family, and she refused to see giving them money without my consent as a breach of trust. The kicker came when it got to be close to the end of the month, and Ashley demanded, not ask, demanded that I put $3,000 in the account for her to use to pay her sister's bills. Her reasoning was, since she stayed there, we owe it to them. I told her she was ridiculous, and that if I wouldn't do that while we were together, why in the world would I do it now? She walked out of the session and told me that she wouldn't continue counseling until I agreed. I contacted a lawyer and filed for a legal separation, and will be filing for divorce. I found that I'm legally obligated to pay usual and ordinary bills of the household, but I am not required to pay any bills for where she moved to since she left voluntarily. So I'm doing what I am required to, including things like paying for her car insurance and her cell phone, but I'm not giving her access to any other funds. She has asked, more like demanded. I give her money as she will be getting it when we divorce, but I don't have a way of making sure whatever she is given comes out of the final settlement. So I'm refusing. I can't stress this enough. Obey your attorney. Do not take the high road or man up or any of the other BS things people are going to tell you that you need to do. You only need to obey your attorney. That's it. I'm sorry this happened to you. Best advice, and only advice to take. Do nothing more and nothing less. Do whatever your lawyer is telling you to do. It's too bad you don't have a prenup. Since she wasn't working, you might have to pay alimony. I hope things work out for you in the future. And I'm sorry you were taken advantage of like this. At least you know now how selfish and self-absorbed she is. And that reality will bite her hard when she realizes she needs to get a job and support herself now. From a comment Opie made after he posted the original, alimony isn't a thing in the state. Thank goodness, I'd say. Meanwhile, sister-in-law is sitting back, rubbing her hands together, waiting for the divorce payout money she'll convince her sister to hand over to her. Opie's wife blew up her own comfy life for what exactly? What an idiot. She needs to wake up to her bad attitude. Helping her sister is one thing, but what she did and how she went about it are very entitled. I hope no kids are involved. Have you spoken to your sister-in-law and explained what her financial demands have cost? We do not have children, and I have not spoken to sister-in-law. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my stepson return home without punishment after he ruined my daughter's book collection? My biological 12-year-old daughter Susan likes to collect and read old children's books, and she's become an incredible reader. She had problems with reading and learning before, and we were advised to encourage her to read. And ever since she started reading, which she does regularly, her skills improved. She also reads to her 2-year-old sister every night. I have a 16-year-old stepson, Levi, who can be a hothead sometimes. We don't have a son-dad relationship, but I respect him and he respects me, though he can act quite mean and selfish towards me and his sisters. He'd throw away stuff that belongs to us over small arguments, and teases Susan for spending a lot of time to read, calling her grandma. My wife and I discussed his behavior and had conversations and agreed on punishments, but Levi would go to his dad's place whenever it causes troubles, then have his dad yell at me for wanting to discuss a suitable punishment. Then Levi comes home days later expecting me to let go of what he did every time. It's frustrating. I got a call at work from Susan saying Levi took her entire book collection and threw them in the pool after she refused to lend him and his friends her camera for his trip. My wife helped get them out, but they were wet and some were torn. It was horrific, because some of those books are hard to get and meant a lot to Susan as a part of her life. I was so mad at Levi that I came home to have a conversation with my wife to decide on a punishment, but he already packed a small bag and went to his dad's. I asked my wife how could she let him basically run after doing this, and she said he called his dad and came to pick him up after Susan said that I was coming home to deal with a problem. I went to his dad's house and he refused to let me see him. I told him how Levi was hiding from consequences, and his dad tried to justify why Levi was acting out by blaming me for how me and Susan treat him. He even said he'd get CPS involved if I ever tried to punish him, because I'm not his dad, so I have no right. Adding that what Levi did was a reaction to my daughter being mean to him. He told me to leave, because Levi won't come home till I promise not to do anything about what he did and put it in writing. I told him Levi should stay here with him then. He's not gonna come back till he get a proper punishment. His dad argued it's his mom's house too, and called my wife. And she asked to let this go, and we'll figure out some way to resolve it. But I don't think it's fair for Susan to have her books ruined and Levi getting away with it. They're asking me to let it go. But this will only encourage Levi to do worse if I don't deal with it now. It's been 2 weeks and my in-laws say I was out of line for banning Levi from coming home and are telling me to step back. But I refused. Edit. Levi's dad thinks that because I'm not his bio dad, then I have no right to punish him for whatever he does in the house. In the past, his dad caused issues when I used to take Levi's electronics that his dad bought as punishment. Then I got talked out of punishing him every time he did something unacceptable, whether to me or his sisters. I've arranged for family therapy, but Levi's dad refused to let him go. I'd like to mention that my in-law said that Levi is willing to apologize to Susan, and so this should be enough to get this over with. But I kept saying no, and for that I'm being considered at fault. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. If your wife refuses to punish her son, then you need to divorce her. Or at the very least, move into a separate house with Susan and your youngest daughter until Levi's out of the house for good. If your stepson continues to get away with hurting Susan with no consequence, Susan is going to suffer greatly. This is a hill to die on. Edit. To everyone telling me that divorce is a crazy suggestion and is an overreaction, I would like to point out my suggestions specify that he should do it if his wife refuses to punish her son. I'm not saying that he shouldn't try to convince his wife first. I'm saying that if she continues to go along with her ex-husband and refuse to punish her son when her son does horrible things to his daughter, then Opie needs to separate his daughters from the stepson. If Opie does manage to get his wife on his side, then no, obviously he shouldn't need to divorce his wife. Agree 100%. This is a hill to die on. Not just for the daughter, but also Levi. He needs not only the consequence of his action, but intervention from a trained professional. I'd start with selling everything he has at your house and using the money to start replacing her books. A-Books is a good website for purchasing hard-to-find books. Another vote for this being a hill to die on, your daughter needs to see some justice here, not a a-hole. You don't teach respect by acting disrespectfully. Children are smart enough to see hypocrisy for what it is. Justice is banning the boy from the house. Stealing from the boy would only be revenge. Solving the issue would be dealing with the mom who lets this happen. File a complaint in the small claims court for the value of the books. Keep it up with everything he destroys. When Bio Dad is on the hook for paying all of his destructive behavior, he'll change his tune. Now that sounds like a plan. I couldn't imagine losing my books at the hands of a sibling, especially considering the book prices aren't exactly going down with time. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my ex and her boyfriend that they should act like the soccer game was life? I, male 25, have an 8-year-old son who loves soccer more than anything. He plays in a team, he plays with friends, and even joins me and my friends on Saturday evenings. His mom wasn't in his life until he was 7. I don't know why she didn't want to be in his life, but I accepted it. I am saying this because till now, their relationship is rocky. His birthday was a week ago, and after he celebrated with his friends, I finally managed to get a whole day just for my son. Considering that I can't let him stay up till 1 a.m. to watch Copa America, I recorded the game of his favorite team, Colombia against Brazil, and we were ready to watch it on Saturday. A few friends of mine came with a Brazil flag and a Colombian flag, so that in case Colombia won, my son could laugh at my friends. Their idea. My ex and her boyfriend came too. No clue why she brought him, as we never invited him, nor did my son. We threw a few steaks on the grill, got ready, and started the game. Then the boyfriend of my ex wanted to bet on the game, searched up the stats, and noticed that at this point the game happened a few days ago. Instead of rationally thinking and playing along, he simply said Brazil won 2-1. I was too late, but still told him to shut up. My son went upstairs in his room and me and my friends wanted them to leave for what they did. I got a call later the day from my ex, saying that I should have told them this in advance. I simply hung up and ignored all the other calls. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My ex doesn't understand soccer, and her boyfriend wasn't invited. So I thought that I don't really need to tell her the game is recorded and not live. Who the hell places bets on a game at an 8-year-old's birthday party? Real winner, that guy. Never thought about that. And on top of that, for a sport he clearly doesn't follow, otherwise would not have needed to look up on his phone to find out the game was from 2 days before. Not the a-hole. It was obvious to anyone with a brain that the people in that room didn't know the results of the game yet. He spoiled it deliberately. You also didn't have the chance to pre-warm him since he wasn't invited. You're not the a-hole. You also didn't have the chance to pre-warm him since he wasn't invited. This point needs to be shouted loudly. Not the a-hole. The boyfriend wasn't invited, and common sense states that if it seems like no one knows the outcome, you keep your mouth shut. Not the a-hole. I feel so bad for your son. That was a really good idea you all had, and some prick ruined it. Your ex should have asked if she could bring him over, and given his lack of social awareness that he shouldn't have gone, it doesn't shock me that he's placing bets at a child's party. Yeah, but we ended up watching the Colombia versus Uruguay game, and fortunately Colombia won that one.